Before there were gods, there was silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence before sound itself. No stars, no sky, no name. Only the great nothing and a pulse beneath it waiting to be born. Then came two realms. One burned, Muspelheim, land of endless fire. The other froze, Niflheim, realm of frost and shadow. They were opposites, yet drawn to one another like breath and heartbeat. And where fire kissed ice, the first spark of life stirred. From that meeting of opposites came the first beings, great giants of primal power. And from their veins, the raw chaos of the cosmos began to flow. It was there, between fire and frost, that another spark appeared. A being not born of either, but of their collision. A child of in-between. A whisper made flesh. A spirit that could never rest within one shape or one truth. That child was called Loki.
Loki's nature was quicksilver, impossible to hold, impossible to define. He could be kind or cruel, clever or reckless. But above all, he was curious. He wandered between realms, learning the tongues of giants, elves, men, and gods. He saw how fire destroys, and how ice preserves, how order binds, and how chaos creates. When the gods of Asgard built their shining realm, it was Odin who noticed Loki. Odin, seeker of all knowledge, wanderer of the 9 realms, saw in the trickster something rare. Not a warrior's strength, not a king's pride, but the spark of creation's untamed side. And so Odin offered Loki a place among the Aesir, not as a slave, nor as a foe, but as a brother. At first, the others resisted. "Can fire and frost sit beside the sun?" they asked, but Odin only smiled. Every flame needs a shadow to reveal its light. And so Loki came to Asgard. He stood among gods, but never truly belonged. Still, he brought laughter. He brought ideas. He built cunning traps for their enemies and clever words for their pride. Even Thor, son of thunder, grew to tolerate him. Though more often than not, Loki's mischief turned Thor's patience into thunderclouds. There was one tale, told and retold at the feasts of Asgard, the day Thor's mighty hammer, Mjolnir, was stolen. The gods panicked. Without the hammer, Asgard was defenseless. But Loki only grinned. "This seems amusing," he said. He borrowed Freya's Galcan cloak, soared through the skies, and descended into the land of the giants. There he found Thrym, the frost giant, who clutched the hammer like a child holds a stolen toy. "I will return it," Thrym said, "if the goddess Freya becomes my bride." Loki's mind turned like a storm. He returned to Asgard and whispered his plan. "Let Thor be the bride." The hall burst into laughter and protest. But Odin nodded slowly. "Let us see if trickery can undo trickery." And so the god of thunder was veiled in bridal silk, his beard hidden beneath gold, his fury beneath a forced smile. At the wedding feast, Thrym raised the hammer to bless the union, and in that heartbeat, Thor's eyes burned like lightning. He seized Mjolnir and shattered the Hall of Giants into dust. When he returned to Asgard, Loki's laughter filled the skies. For a moment, all was joy. The gods laughed, the world was safe, and chaos, for once, had saved the order of heaven. But Loki simply watched the sunset and smiled in silence. He knew such peace would never last.
Time moved differently for gods. A century could pass between heartbeats, and in those ages, Loki's laughter began to change. Where once it had been playful, now it carried an edge. He watched as Odin grew distant, as Thor became a symbol of brute strength, and as Asgard turned inward, forgetting the worlds beyond its shining walls. Loki saw it clearly, the pride of gods turning into chains. The same order that once protected the world was now strangling it. He began to test those chains. He teased Freya for her vanity, mocked Odin's wisdom, and whispered truths too sharp for divine ears. When the gods grew tired of his games, they banished him, but only until they needed his cleverness again. And they always needed it. He built things they could not, devised tricks they could not foresee, and through it all, Loki played both friend and foe, half smile, half shadow.
In his wanderings, Loki met a giantess named Angerboda. She lived deep in the iron wood, where trees grow taller than mountains and time moves like breath on glass. From their strange union came 3 children, a wolf, a serpent, and a pale girl. The wolf was Fenrir, jaws vast enough to swallow the sun. The serpent was Jormungandr, whose body would one day encircle the world. And the girl was Hel, half living, half dead, destined to rule the realm beneath the earth. When Odin learned of these children, his one remaining eye wept. He foresaw what they would bring. He ordered the gods to take them. Jormungandr was cast into the deep sea. Hel was sent to rule the underworld, and Fenrir, the wolf child, was chained. The chains were made from impossible things: the sound of a cat's footstep, the breath of a fish, and the roots of a mountain. Unbreakable. Loki watched in silence as his children were torn from him. His laughter died that day. In its place, a new sound was born. Quiet, cold, like ice cracking beneath the dawn. Among all the gods, one shone brighter than the rest. Baldur, son of Odin, radiant with purity and grace. Every living thing loved him, every creature, every stone, every tree. All things swore never to harm him, all except one. The mistletoe, small, soft, and forgotten. Loki found it amusing, a god beloved by all, and yet undone by something so small. He carved the dart from mistletoe's stem, handed it to Baldur's blind brother Hoder, and whispered, "Go on, join the game." The dart flew. The hall went silent. Baldur fell, a god of light, struck down by laughter. When the shock faded, rage filled Asgard like thunder. Loki fled. He ran across fields, rivers, and mountains, changing shapes with every step. A salmon, a hawk, a shadow, a whisper. But no trick lasts forever. They caught him, bound him in a cave deep beneath the earth. Above him, a serpent dripped venom burning through his skin, each drop a fire that never dies. His wife, Sigyn, stayed beside him, holding a bowl to catch the venom, until the bowl filled, and she turned to empty it. Each time she did, a drop struck Loki's face, and his screams shook the earth. Mortals would later call it earthquakes. The gods called it justice. But the trickster called it waiting. Ages passed. The world changed. Men built kingdoms and forgot the old gods. But beneath the roots of the world tree, Loki waited, bound, burning, silent, until he heard a crack, the sound of a chain breaking, then another, and another. The wolf Fenrir stirred, the serpent Jormungandr coiled. Hel raised her pale hand, and Loki
opened his eyes. He rose not as the playful trickster of old, but as something vast, a mirror of the gods' own cruelty. He marched to the battlefield of the end. The skies turned crimson. The seas boiled. The sun was devoured. Odin rode to meet his fate. Thor lifted Mjolnir for the last time, and Loki smiled through the smoke. When he faced Heimdall, the watchman of the gods, neither spoke, for both knew how the story must end. They fought, two halves of a prophecy colliding, light and shadow, duty and defiance. When their blades struck, the sound split the heavens. Both fell, and the world burned. When the fires of Ragnarok faded, the sky was empty, the sea quiet. Only the wind remained, and the faint scent of ash and rain. From that silence, new life began to stir once more. A green shoot rising from blackened soil, a whisper of laughter in the mist. For even in destruction, Loki's essence lingered. Not as a god, not as a villain, but as a truth. That creation and chaos are brothers. That endings are merely beginnings wearing new names.
And so, wanderer, if ever you dream of a man who smiles too easily, whose eyes hold both mercy and danger, listen carefully. For his words may twist, but his intent is clear, to remind us that no order lasts forever, and that even gods are born from chaos. Because somewhere, between fire and frost, between silence and laughter, the trickster still walks. And when the world grows too certain, too proud, too still, he'll return. There will always be a trickster. There will always be a spark. For even in stillness, chaos dreams.
Subscribe for more myths. Like the tale? Share the dream.